In this video, I'll show you two ways to find your mistakes. The first way involves just looking at the piece. So if that's a little bit difficult for you, you can jump ahead to the second way, which involves undoing your work to figure out where you've made the mistake. So let's say I've realized that I have the wrong number of stitches at this point. I was supposed to only have a bunch of single crochet stitches. So the way I can see if I actually did do a single crochet stitch in every hole is by just looking at the fabric. So usually I talk about these horizontal V's as where you want to put your hook next. And these horizontal V's are actually the top loops of a stitch. Another way to look at a stitch is by looking for these vertical V's. Each one of these vertical V's is a single crochet stitch, and you can trace them back into a hole. That means that I made one single crochet stitch in this hole, so that's correct. If I look at the previous stitch, I can see another vertical V tracing back into the next hole, so that's correct too. But now I go back to this stitch, and there's a lot more yarn happening here. If I were to actually split it apart, I'd actually see it looks like this jumble of yarn because it is two vertical V's going back into the same hole. That means I accidentally put two single crochet stitches in this hole. So that's where I made a mistake. And if I wanted to undo my stitches and then start from there, I would just keep the first of those two single crochet stitches and undo it from that point and keep on going there. But let's say that it's hard for you to see the stitches in your yarn. Another way you can find the mistake in your piece is by undoing the yarn slowly. So now, scenario changed. Let's say at this point I realize I have less stitches than I should at this point. So it probably means I accidentally skipped a hole. I didn't put a stitch somewhere when I should have. And let's say I can't easily tell where that is. So I'm gonna undo my stitches one by one. And what I'm really looking for when I undo these stitches is I want to see what hole the yarn comes out of. So to undo a stitch, just one stitch, I'm going to hold on to the stitch I want to keep. The one I want to keep is the one next to the one that the loop for your hook traces back into. And I'm going to hold on to the yarn connected to the yarn ball and pull super slowly. And I felt the yarn give, but at this point I have two loops left because I didn't fully pull out the stitch. But this second loop is what I want to watch really closely. I want to see what hole this loop, when I keep pulling, comes out of. All right, it came out of this hole. And I only have one loop left. That loop is coming out of the stitch I wanted to keep. So I know I successfully took out the entire stitch. All right, now I'm going to undo the next stitch to see if that stitch is coming out of the hole right before that. So I repeat the process of holding on to the stitch I want to keep and then pulling on the yarn connected to the yarn ball super slowly so I can watch what hole this yarn comes out of. Great, it came out of the correct hole. So far, so good. Now I'm going to do it again one more time. And great, that yarn came out of the next hole. And actually, I could pause here because I already see, after undoing that, that there is no yarn that is going to come out of the hole right after that. So this is the spot where I accidentally skipped a hole.